Hello, my name is Jody Zolman, and I would like to review weather observations for two sites, Anchorage and Kodiak, Alaska, on two separate weeks. The week beginning January 28th, 2014, and March 23rd, 2014. The first location, Anchorage, is seen in the picture above. Anchorage enjoys a coastal climate sitting on the Cook Inlet with the Kodiak Mountains as a backdrop, sheltering Anchorage from the Gulf of Alaska to the southwest. Anchorage sits at 61 degrees north and 150 degrees west. Kodiak, 50 degrees north and 153 degrees west, has a coastal climate and is under more influence from weather systems coming from the Gulf of Alaska. You can see the island of Kodiak to the south and west of Anchorage. In Anchorage, we will look at 2 days, January 28th and February 1st, 2014. According to this chart, we can see that the maximum temperature in Anchorage for January 28th was 43 degrees at noon, and the minimum temperature was 32 degrees Fahrenheit at just before midnight. This represents a temperature range of 11 degrees. The mean temperature for these 2 days is 35 degrees. This is about 13 degrees above the climatic average. You can see that the climatic daily temperatures in Anchorage for this date are a maximum of 23 degrees and a minimum of 11 degrees with a mean temperature of 17 degrees. On February 1st, the daily temperature was a maximum of 25 degrees occurring at around noon. The minimum temperature occurred at 6 a.m. and was 12 degrees Fahrenheit. The mean for this day was 19 degrees, which is 5 degrees above the climatic mean. We can see that for February 1st, the climatic maximum temperature is 24 degrees and the minimum is 12 degrees. In this slide, we see the air pressure data for the week of January 26th through February 3rd. You can see the pressure is mostly steady on Sunday, January 26th, at around 1,015 millibars, and then drops dramatically on Monday, the 27th, before ascending later that day and continuing to rise throughout the week. On January 28th, we see a pressure variation from 1,010 millibars to 1,018 millibars by the end of the day. On February 1st, we see the air pressure is steady, rising slightly throughout the day from 1,023 millibars to 1,025 millibars at day's end. On this chart, we see the dew point temperatures and the rate of relative humidity. On January 28th, the maximum dew point temperature is 34 degrees at 11 a.m. Remember that the dew point is a measure of absolute humidity. The minimum dew point temperature for January 28th is 28 degrees at midnight. The high for relative humidity is 84% at 11 a.m. and the low relative humidity is 20% at 8 p.m. On February 1st, the maximum dew point temperature is 21 degrees at noon and the minimum dew point temperature is 12 at 6 a.m. The RH for this day, or relative humidity, is 95% at 8 a.m. and 85% at 8 p.m. We can see the relative humidity rising and the dew point temperature steadily dropping throughout the week. This could be in response to the rising air pressure for this week. Here we can see Anchorage on January 28, 2014, near the center of the weather map. We can see that there is a low pressure system moving eastward to the southwest of Anchorage. There is light cloud cover and little wind. You can see this by looking at the isobars above the Anchorage area. On February 1st, we can see that the low pressure system has moved north and is west of Anchorage, and that there is a high pressure system to the east of Anchorage that is scattering clouds. There is little wind. This infrared satellite photo on February 1st, 2014 shows the low pressure system to the southwest of Anchorage and the scattered clouds to the east. Anchorage is clearing with little cloud cover. This map contains the daily temperatures for the week of March 23, 2014 in the Anchorage area. We will look at the days of March 23rd and March 27th. On March 23rd, we see the maximum temperature occurred at 6 p.m. with a high of 40 degrees in Anchorage. The low was 20 degrees occurring at 10 a.m. The high temperature for March 27 was 37 degrees and the low was 20 degrees. These occurred at 6 p.m. and 6 a.m. respectively. We can see that the highs and lows stayed mostly within the climatic maximum and minimum temperatures for this time of year. For Kodiak, on the week of March 23rd, we can see that the temperatures were high in the beginning of the week and then were somewhat normal for this time of year, mostly remaining within the range of climatic temperatures for Kodiak, but with higher than average high temperatures occurring later in the day and showing cooling temperatures at night. The maximum temperature for March 23rd was 42 degrees at noon and 38 at midnight, showing little temperature variation throughout the day. On March 27th, the high was 43 at 6 p.m. and 30 degrees at 6 a.m. The dew point temperature for March 23rd in Anchorage was 15 degrees for the high and 4 degrees for the low, with a high relative humidity of 62% and a low relative humidity of 39%. On March 27th, the dew point temperature had a high of 19 degrees and a low of 12 degrees, with a high relative humidity at 80% and the low relative humidity at 39%. This indicates stable air over Anchorage for this time and no dramatic changes in weather patterns for this week. In Kodiak for the same week, we have a high dew point temperature of 32 degrees on March 23rd and a low 25 degrees, with a high relative humidity of 78% and a low relative humidity of 59% for that day. On March 27th, at the end of the week, we see the dew point temperature of 23 degrees for a high and 17 degrees for a low. The relative humidity high was 65% and the low relative humidity was 39%. Here again, it looks like a relatively stable weather condition for Kodiak throughout the week. On this weather map for March 23rd, we see that there is little cloud cover over the Anchorage area and that even Kodiak has few clouds with little wind. The interior of Alaska is under the influence of a stable high-pressure air mass and has little cloud cover or weather happening at this time. For March 27th, the good weather continues with clear skies over both Anchorage and Kodiak. This infrared map for March 23rd shows the dissipating cloud cover over the Anchorage area extending southwest to Kodiak. The low-pressure systems in the Gulf of Alaska far to the south are easily seen, and the front moving in from the west is evident. The satellite photo of water vapor images on March 27th also show the light water vapor in the air over Anchorage and Kodiak and the systems to the west and in the Gulf of Alaska. Overall, for the week of March 23rd through the 27th, we see that Kodiak enjoyed pretty good temperatures for that time of year. This above is a picture of Kodiak Harbor. Anchorage too enjoyed seasonable weather for the week of March 23rd through the 27th, and also for the temperatures in January 28th through the February 1st. There was little wind, there was little cloud cover, which is a pretty special treat for this time of year in Anchorage.